What's up, world? Thanks for jumping in for another ride. Today we've got something a little bit different in the shop, so you can see that this is definitely not any sort of a cool hot rod exotic. We're not doing a new truck review, anything like that. So this is my Kubota T1760 lawnmower. Now my wife and I actually purchased this little Kubota lawnmower brand new back in the spring of the year 2000. We actually moved into our house in November of 1999. And the reason why I thought I would share a little bit of this repair with you is the reality for us gearheads is a lot of times it isn't just about a nitrous build or a big single turbo build. A lot of projects for us gearheads comes down to basic equipment and everyday items that we're using. And so this is just one of those simple gearhead repair items that happen to fall on that list. Now, after purchasing this little Kubota back in 2000, this little Kubota has never been to a shop anywhere. I have always performed all the maintenance and any repairs on this little Kubota, and it has performed absolutely fantastic. It's actually really impressive how well this thing has lasted. And you can see 423 hours. And you can see I have the little lower piece and the radiator cover over there. And this is a liquid cooled Kawasaki V-twin. And so I'm just going to go over some of the basic maintenance really quick. Now, obviously a major factor on something like this is keeping the radiator cleaned out. Also, I've always used OEM Kubota filters. And so this does have a foam pre-filter and a paper filter. And over the years, I have just used the basic Everstart Walmart batteries. Still on the original starter. Normal replacement once every year on the fuel filter. The coils and the wires are the originals. I have always used NGK spark plugs. Never had any issues with having to adjust the valves. The little exhaust and muffler is all still original. I do flush the coolant once a year, and I will usually use the orange Dexcool coolant. And for me, coolant is a huge factor in this, being in Texas because of the Texas heat. So I do try to keep the coolant flushed and in good condition on it. And also this little Kubota does set out in a shed, so it is exposed to the elements in the wintertime as far as just swinging temperatures and humidity. So no climate control for the little Kubota. I always just make it a habit to change the oil in the spring and the fall every single year, and I've always used Redline engine oil, and I have always used K&N oil filters on this little Kubota. Now I do normally sharpen the mower blades once every year. Normally it'll either be in the fall or the spring, and I'll just write a note up on my dry erase board, the date when I did that. And our little Kubota T1760 has had multiple sets of mower belts over the years. And it has also had a couple of drive belts that run from the engine back to the mower deck to drive the deck. And I have put a set of front tires on it. And so with that, that basically gets us where we are at today, 25 years later. So it's time for a set of back tires, and in particular, the back, I guess you could just call it the passenger side or the right tire. So it has some weather cracking and the valve stem is starting to leak. So I've gone ahead and got started early this Sunday morning and got that off. So now that it's off and I have verified kind of what's going on with it, I'm going to go ahead and order in a set of tires so I can get that going. So now on to our actual major current situation. So the belt that runs, as you can see, it's just kind of laying down there in the bottom. But the belt that basically runs from the front pulley back to this little hydrostatic transmission in the rear has failed. And so after 25 years, I think I got my money's worth out of that belt, and so it is time to change it. Now with that, I want to point out that any gearhead knows that efficiency is primary with a lot of this stuff, and so that little fan off in there helps cool the hydrostatic transmission. So I want to make sure that all that works. I've gone through and checked the idlers and the pulleys just to make sure that everything is free and works. So now that I've gone through and checked the idlers and pulleys to make sure that those are in good condition, I think what I'm going to do to make this a little bit easier is I'm just going to drop the deck, and I can use those pins and that pin at the rear, and I can drop the deck, and then I can get to that pulley just below that fan right there at the rear, and then to the pulley up there on the front, so that we can go ahead and replace this belt. So with that, I'm gonna get busy, and I'll kind of share where I'm at as I go along with this. This isn't necessarily me sharing like specific directions to install anything. This is just one of those gearhead items that we all end up fixing around our house. So if you wanna hang out around the shop, let's get busy. All right, so I just took a big piece of cardboard, and you can see that I just kind of ripped the edges of it there to make it fit. But I've got a piece of cardboard up under the mower deck, so I'm gonna try and get that unpinned and see if I can ease the mower deck down real quick. All right, so first step is we're going to take that bolt there at the top of that pulley off, and we can get the guard off of the top of that, and then we should be able to just loop that drive belt that goes down to our deck up to the front. of that main pulley off of the motor. We should just be able to slip that belt off, and that should be the only thing outside of the pins keeping us attached. So I'm going to give this a try and see if we can get this deck set on the ground. Okay, I got the back left, or what would be the back driver's side, loose on the mower deck, and you can see that it just slipped off right there. And I did grab me a magnetic tray, so I've got all this little small hardware up here just sitting on the seat. Okay, on our right side, you can see that our linkage goes up to our handle to raise and lower the deck. And so this is kind of fixed. So what I'm going to do is go down to the bottom and just pull this out. And I think this will work fine. I'm going to give it a try. As you can see, I just got a long, heavy-duty pair of needle nose, and I just straightened out my cotter pin. I'm going to try to get the cotter pin pulled out and see if this is going to work. No promises, but this should be the rear right side. Also, while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and mention this jack. Obviously, I'm not really sitting under this, and to be honest, this little mower isn't that heavy. One person can basically pick it up if you really want to. Just takes a little bit of effort, but I think what I'm going to do is way over there, that red sticking out from under that bench, is a motorcycle jack. And so motorcycle jacks basically go up and then lock into place, much like the post on a lift. So I think what I may do here in just a minute is grab that motorcycle jack, just kind of keep things safe and keep any sort of like weird movement out of this. That way I can kind of keep this locked into position instead of just my little aluminum Craftsman jack. So maybe on the mind to do here, again, this isn't instructional. Make sure you're safe, whatever you do. So yeah, I think here in just a second, I may grab that motorcycle jack and swap those out somehow. I really didn't think far enough ahead with that. I was really just focused on that tire and wheel. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this pin out and see if I can get this rear right side of this deck down. Okay, so that did work. All I really needed to do was take my hammer, and I just tapped the pin out. I'll show you the pin and the washer. So pin and washer, so I just tapped that out. And then once I had it basically to the very edge, to the inner edge here, I just actually took my hammer, slipped it under there, supported the weight, and it pulled right out with my long, heavy-duty needle nose. So came right out. Then once that was done, I could just basically take this wheel, pick it up a little bit, get my hammer out from under it, and was good to go. So that was kind of the quick process of that. But onto the front, and we will see if we can get this deck on the ground, see if we can access these belts and do a little work. While I'm here, I'll go ahead and show you. You can see that belt is all frayed up there on the front. Let's see if she'll last another 25 years. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see what happens with this. Okay, on our front right side, that was very simple. You can see that we just got a couple of welded plates that are basically U-shaped on the deck. There's that, and this was loose, and so it just has a ring, kind of like a key ring, and the pin goes through it with the washer. So that's that side. Let me get back over to the left and see if we can get the last side, which will be the front left off. And just like the right side, there was no weight on the left side once the back was released. Again, just that pin and the washer and that key ring type of lock ring is all that was. As I said, I'm kind of working through the problems as I run across them. It's pretty basic mechanical problem solving and figuring things out. But we'll see how this goes, and hopefully I can get this deck out from under it and get those drive belts replaced. So the only thing left to do is everything. All right, update. So last night you can see that we got one of the rear wheels and tires apart, and it was absolutely stuck on there. So basically we had to take a little bit of penetrating oil, soak it, let it sit a while, and then basically take a hammer and a big flat blade screwdriver and just basically beat it into submission, for lack of a better term. So we're gonna get the wheels cleaned up. There is our new little tires. So those original tires have been on those wheels for 25 years now, so it's understandable if they're on there. I've got some stuff laid out of here. I got some more penetrating oil, but you can see that. I'll swing around the lift here so you can see that we got our parts in. So we've got some of the UDT2, and we've pumped as much fluid out of that as we can. So we're going to go back with some fresh UDT. Also, our belt. So we did get our belt in. So there's that. And Colin and I worked on this last night. I didn't do a ton of documenting on it. We were just actually kind of focused on getting things together, but I'll give you the once over of it. So you can see up there is our belt, and you can see that spring right there. So basically what I did was I just got the deck down, and that pulley there that goes back that drives the mower deck, I've replaced it several times, so I pretty well knew what I was doing there. So I got all that out of the way, got the deck just down and pushed out of the way. That tensioner spring that I just showed you, I just used a long pair of these needle nose, and I got that spring off of where it clips onto the frame. Got that tensioner swung over, and that allowed me to get the belt all the way back to the transmission back there. And this thing is an absolute mess. Every time that you try to clean anything, it just kind of keeps coming out of it, but that's part of equipment like this. So anyway, I got that basically put together. So that's going to be our drive belt that goes from the motor back to the little drive transmission and the deck. That belt, all that's back together. I did have to replace one washer and one cotter pin right there, which I already had that stuff in the shop, so no big deal. Other than that, the deck is back together, so this should be good to go, I think. So other than that, the plan is to go ahead and finish up getting that tire and wheel that I showed you a little earlier all back together. Give you a shot of that side, so everything all put back together over here. Got our cable running down there for the mower engagement. But other than that, I'm going to put a little anti-seize on this. I'm going to clean all this up good. I'm going to put some penetrating oil on this, because this is the basically kind of the neutral, if you will, if you're going to push it. So it's kind of stiff, so I'm going to oil that up, get all that grass out of there, just clean this thing up really good. I'm going to put some anti-seize on the little splines here on the shaft for the other tire and wheel once they get it back together. And then the next step is to go ahead and get this side apart and get this tire replaced over on this side. So that's a quick update, and I'm going to get back to work, and I'll share with you where we're at here in a moment. All right, it has been a couple of weeks, and as you can see, I've got stuff drug out everywhere, and I actually had all that mess over there tightened up for a little while, just kind of in a pile, so that Colin and I could do whatever we needed to do around the shop. But long story short, completely my fault. I dropped the ball, and I had ordered the wrong size tires for the rear of the Kubota. The Amazon seller was super cool, accepted the return with no problems whatsoever. And so we got the new tires in, and as you can see, I've got these wheels completely cleaned up. Got new valve stems in them, so all good to go there. And there we go, all mounted up. I took some emery cloth and cleaned up the inside where that shaft goes in, the little axle shaft. And so with that, I'm going to get ready to get this tire mounted up, and then we are going to see how much fun this side is to get off, because those little axle shafts have rust all the way down them. So I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty decent challenge. Remember, this stuff is messy. I'm going to take a couple of little goops and put down inside that groove, because that keyway is what centers up the axle. So there's a keyway that goes down in there, and then a keyway sticks up from there and also goes into the wheel itself. So that keeps the wheel locked into position. But when I put that keyway in there, I don't want to be able to move, and obviously it's not going to fall out because it's sticking up. But if it were sticking down any whatsoever, I'd probably actually put a little bit more in there, but that should be good. So I want enough to keep that keyway from seizing up and rusting into place, and just enough to keep it, if for whatever reason I turn the axle, probably won't, but if it did, I don't have to worry about it falling out. So just a thin coat all the way around is what I'm going for here. So that should be actually more than enough. That's pretty heavy on it. I'm going to touch up out there on the end. And then I'm going to take this glove off, because again, this stuff is seriously messy. And then I'll grab our wheel. Pretty good stuff. Been using it a lot of years. Here's that keyway I was talking about, and it just sits in position right there. Now I'm going to grab our tire and wheel. You can see that groove for that keyway. All right, took a little effort, got our keyway lined up, and there we go. So next up, we need our big flat washer, the smaller flat washer, and then our lock ring. Let me grab some lock ring pliers. Just so that you're in the loop here, I have swapped out my jaws in this particular lock ring pliers, so they'll open up. And lock ring. And one of my little studs there on my lock ring pliers is getting kind of beat up, but like that. But let's try it again. Probably should go and see if I can get some new studs to go on these things, but I think if I keep a little pressure on it. Well, I got it started for the most part. I think that's up there far enough. I'm gonna wipe the anti-seize off because this stuff seems to never stop spreading. And I'm gonna grab something to tap that on up in place. Maybe, we'll see. That should work. Complete overkill, definitely not necessary. I did take a little bit of just some cleaner, some Armor All type product, probably some off-brand stuff that I had laying around. But I figured why not? After 25 years, probably could use a cleaning. And there we go. The only thing left to do is the other side. All right, let's get side number 2 going and then we'll see what's next. I think what I'm gonna do while I've got this in here, and we are basically in November right now. So I think what I'm going to do is end up going ahead and flushing the coolant on this little thing because I haven't done it since the year before last. And normally I actually do it every year. And so I have to assume this thing has some kind of little water pump. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm assuming that it does. Maybe somebody out there can tell me. And I'm pretty sure it has to have some kind of little thermostat. And I've never replaced either one of them, but I've always made it a pretty good habit of maintaining the coolant. And so I feel like that has worked out really well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead while I got this thing inside and it's not out in the shed. I don't have to move nothing around. I think we're gonna go ahead and flush the coolant on this while we're at it. And there we go. So, just like that other side, snap ring, small washer, big washer, and now this. And I'm gonna give it a pull, but I'm gonna be honest, that side over there was a bear. That rust around there was pretty tough. So I'm gonna see what happens. Chances are I'm gonna end up taking a wooden block, putting it on this side, on the inside of the wheel, and basically using a dead blow hammer and driving this thing off because that's what I had to do over there. Hopefully not, but we'll see. No way, check it out. Man, all right. You can kind of see what we got going on. I'm going to top off our UDT. You can see there that we've pretty much pulled out as much as we could down into the tube. So while I got this access, I'm gonna hit all this with an air hose. I'm gonna go ahead and hit this with a little penetrating oil. Nothing too over the top, just real simple. I actually got, while I'm at it, if you'll hang on just 1 second, I've got a piece of belt hung up in this dang thing. I don't know if you can see that, but there it is. I'm gonna grab a pair of scissors or something to cut that and get it out of there so it don't mess up our little coolant fan blades on our transmission. So that's the plan. I'll just do a light pass over this with emery cloth. You can see the rust coming off of it. So light pass, I'll go ahead and blow this out with a air hose, little penetrating oil on any moving components, get all this stuff bird nest off there, and I'll make sure I cut that out. I'm going to ahead and hit the inside of that with a little bit of emery cloth, completely clean the wheel up, get this old tire off of it. That's the overview of the plan. I won't bore you with a whole bunch of details. Again, this is one of those projects that every gearhead around their house runs into, and it's like, I don't really want to do this project, but it's either pay someone to do it and probably get charged full prices or just suck it up, buttercup, and knock it out. So that's basically what we're doing. So with that, I'm going to get busy because the only thing left to do on this side is everything. There we go. Glad I got that. That way it didn't get caught up in the fan or underneath the new belt. After 20 years, the buildup inside of these little wheels is pretty crazy. So you can see, like, I've already been through a couple of paper towels here, and I'm just using the spray bottle that I will normally use to check for leaks on tires. And it's basically just regular old tap water and a few drops of dish soap. just like I did on that first side, I'm going to go ahead and do a good once over cleanup on these wheels. But I just want to show you just how bad the buildup got inside of these wheels over 25 plus years of lawn duty. So it's pretty crazy. Like I say, you can see all the buildup on there and it pulling up. So some of it I've had to kind of soak to break down, but I'm going to keep cleaning and we'll get back at it. All right, I've got my wheel all cleaned up, as you can see. And so got a fresh valve stem, got my valve stem tool, and I'm going to go ahead and pop this valve stem in really quick. I just took these pair of dikes, and basically what I did on the old one as it was installed, always just slip it under this back side here, and then you can just cut along in that groove and basically it'll just come apart. So really simple to get it out. The gnat, I just like to take a little bit of the mounting compound. It does not take much at all, and just kind of get around that shoulder there, put it through, and then this would be really hard to do without this tool, so I'll put an affiliate link down in the description if you're interested in any of this stuff. But man, this tool makes things so much easier. So I don't know how much of this you can see. I'll try to get it at an angle where you can see it, so I can prop it up here. And just like that, it's in. Then it just unscrews. And like that, we are in business. So this is just a piece of medium grit emery cloth. So I'm just going to take scissors and cut a piece off there. That will dull your scissors really quick, so you might have to eventually sharpen them if you do that too often, but I don't really want to waste an entire sheet of this either. So go ahead and cut it. It's probably the right move. Other than that, just going to basically roll this up so that it will fit snug down inside the wheel, and do that and kind of work around and just kind of knock off some of that rust filled up, any rough high spots. See, it's kind of got some rust spots and different things on it. And this side here was actually much better than that other side, so it's not going to take much. So you can see kind of what's coming out of there. So, and it's still wet inside a little bit, not a big deal. But just want to make sure that we get any of the heavy stuff off of the inside of that wheel. And then we put our anti-seize over on the shaft, we should be good to go for protection, so that is at least slowed down. If not, doesn't happen again. Let's run over before we get the tire on, and we'll go ahead and do the shaft over on the mower real quick too. This one isn't nowhere near as bad as that side was over there. We still have our piece, our keyway down in there, so we just can give this a quick once over. Sometimes you can just kind of take it, wrap it around it like that. This is the way I'll normally do it when I'm installing a new set of bearings or hubs, something like that. Is the wraparound method kind of works both, but obviously we do have a keyway on here. So kind of clean around it and give it a little brush like so, and then we should be able to slide this guy right back up in there just like that. And you can see kind of what's come off of that thing. So there we go. We should be good. Let's go ahead and finish getting our tire on now. So we're about a quarter of the way up of our reservoir. It should be good to go, and it probably only took maybe a quarter quart, something like that, quarter of a quart. So there's that. Next up, little anti-seize on our shaft here for our tire and wheel combo. And there we are. Okay, so I did debate about this already, talked about it, about going ahead and just doing a drain on the coolant and putting some fresh coolant in it. So you can see mixed. Look at that fancy labeling I've got going on there. Basically what I do is I just release this clamp or loosen this clamp and just take the hose, drop it down as low as possible. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I figured out no way whatsoever to do this without making just an absolute mess. So I got a couple of absorbent mats. I got one here and I got a stack behind me. I got a drain pan. So the best I can do really is just kind of take my drain pan, stuff it up in there. I'll drop my hose over here, and then my absorbent mat I'm just going to put up under here best I can. And other than that, whatever I miss, I'm basically just going to run a bucket of hot water and some good cleaner. I'll mop the floor up, get this thing out of here, but you get the idea. There's just not really an easy way to do this without making a mess. So I'm just going to go with it, essentially, is all I'm saying here. So here we go. Pick so I can release the hose. There we go. Now we got that clamp out of the way. Let me kind of release this hose like so. Now let's see what happens. There we go, it's moving. And here we go. It's coming at me. I'm gonna grab a mat. A couple of the absorbent mats. Get those down there. Luckily, we already had that cardboard down there, so that helped a lot. So once this thing hangs out a second, I'm basically going to get as much of this wiped up as I can. I might even take an air hose and kind of go over things, blow whatever's loose off of it, and then I'll just grab a bucket with some fresh water. And I got a big old sponge over there and just kind of wipe everything down as much as I can. I want to keep as much of this stuff out of any water tables or anything like that as I possibly can. I want it to go in this bucket like that. So that was my original conversation, was that happening. But as you can see, the oil filter drain, the oil filter, the expansion tank for the coolant, everything is basically like stuffed right underneath this neck here. So and it's just a barrier. I've been doing this a long time and I've tried a lot of different ways. I hadn't figured out the easy way to do it yet. So there's probably some dude working at Kubota that's absolutely entertained by me right now. They could probably tell me how to do this in less than 5 minutes and not spill a single drop. But you can see for a little 17 horse gas engine, I think you can see that okay. This thing holds a lot of coolant, but I mean, it's also designed to be running in pretty harsh environments. Summer times in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, some places where it's really hot. So I can see why Kubota puts a pretty substantial cooling system on it. So definitely does its job. Okay. So, with that, we'll go ahead and get my hose back on. And there's that. That little hose clamp is really tight where it goes over that collar on that radiator. I always just use a Phillips head screwdriver on this. Seems to be the best thing because obviously I don't want to over tighten it. And I will tell you, it doesn't matter if it's gloves or bare hands or whatever, that antifreeze gets really slick and it becomes hard to have any kind of finer motor skills on some of this stuff. That should work for that. Okay, I'm gonna get that container of antifreeze into a container to go to recycle, and I'm gonna start cleaning up all my mess. I'll be back. And we are back in business with the little 25-year-old Kubota. So listen, that's gonna wrap up this video. Seriously, if you hung out through this video, thank you very much. You are die-hard downshifting. My family and I seriously appreciate it. We love you, God bless. So if you haven't already, you know the deal. Please do us a huge favor, go hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and let's get back to having some fun, doing some hot rod type stuff. Take care out there, we'll see you soon. As always, jump in for another ride.